first want to say welcome to our Business Builder Speaker Series. My name is Doug Dean. I'm the owner and managing partner of Schaeferitz and Dean. Our Business Builder Speaker Series was an idea that came out of the COVID days 5 years ago when we couldn't get together in person. And we said, let's get together once a month on Zoom and we'll bring in a speaker with a topic that we think is valuable to you, our real estate agent community. We record our presentations. We put introductory theme music and credits, make them look professional. We post them to our YouTube channel and then link to them on our website. If you go to our website under resources, you'll be able to review a replay of all of our Business Builder Speaker series to date. They're only 1 hour. They're not for CE credit, but they are good information. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. I know it's a commitment of your time. We know that you're busy, and we appreciate you joining. To make the most of your time, we encourage you to ask questions. You can do that either by raising your hand in Zoom, by using the chat box, and I'll monitor the chats, or just go ahead and unmute and speak up. It's a small enough group, we can do that. We encourage you to get connected with Schaeferitz and Dean. We're on all of the socials. They're all listed here. And our prior Business Builder Speaker series on our website, schaeferitz-dean.com. And under the resource tab, there's one for the business builders. This is a list of speakers that we've had year to date on our Business Builder Speaker series, and you'll find all of their presentations on our website. Mark your calendar. Our next business builder, I'm sorry, the slide's not updated. It will be the third Wednesday in November. Look at my calendar and tell you when that is.
Looks like the 19th.
Thank you very much. It is Wednesday the 19th at 10 a.m. And we will have another speaker in November. And thank you for joining us today. And stay tuned. Denny Faircloth is an engaging and exciting speaker. We saw a blog post that he had made. We thought it was bright and well written, and we thought it would be good information to share with you. From sale to sold, using an investor-based analysis to sell more, Denny Faircloth. And Denny, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to you. Thank you for being our guest today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with all of our visitors and anybody else that might look in the future. Before I dive into the content, I thought I'd give you the audience a little bit of a context as to who I am and how I got to, this perspective. So I am a licensed realtor. I never wanted to be a realtor, and I never thought I would be. It wasn't in my grand plan of things to do with my career. And as y'all know, Mike Tyson would say, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's kind of how life happens. You get in, you start doing, and things happen, and you make different decisions. And so I had a pretty successful career in my 20s in the direct sales industry. And then my father died. My mother couldn't afford the home. And I was living in Atlanta. People were flipping houses in my neighborhood. People were flipping houses on TV. I was intrigued by real estate. And so I thought, how hard could it be? And I hired some people, did like a cosmetic renovation just to update my family's home that I grew up in. And ultimately, that didn't kill me. I had a good experience. And I thought, I wonder if I can do some more of this. And so I reached out to the lead character of Flip This House 20 years ago when before there were a million house flipping shows. He was the only one. And his name's Peter Pasternak. He replied to my message. We met for coffee, became fast friends, and then ultimately became business partners and went on to flip many, 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 many homes together. I lost count a long time ago. And so we were flipping homes. 2010, we started a real estate networking event called Real Estate Connections. And last Tuesday, we celebrated our 15th anniversary of Real Estate Connections. We had over 450 real estate professionals in attendance. It was a really great experience. And so I always thought that I would do the investor thing and that I would do the house flipping thing. And then come, I want to say 2017, 18, 19, inventory was getting tighter, deals were getting harder to come by, and my mother-in-law reached out to me to help her sell her home, which at the time I wasn't, I just got my license to use for our investing business. I always felt like realtors just never understood investors. They were always trying to get us to fall in love with the kitchen or the location or the school or some of these things that I guess more traditional buyers and sellers would be interested in which they are relevant. But to an investor, it's all about the numbers. You never fall in love with the deal, you fall in love with the numbers. And so I thought I'll just go get my real estate license so I can take care of that piece of it. We always, ran our own numbers anyway. And then my mother-in-law reached out and said, "Hey, will you sell my house for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And kind of the same story that I had with my mother, the home was a little dated. I noticed there were some easy things that we could do to add value to get a higher sales price and to get more net proceeds for her. And I treated her like she was an investor, and ultimately that experience went really well. I set a record for the price in that neighborhood. She got way more, net proceeds than she ever thought she would get. And I thought to myself, I wonder what other people who may not be investors could use that kind of insight and could use that kind of service. And that's what led me to this conversation today, years later, for myself, for other investors, for friends, for family, for people. I approach it with this one mindset, and that is, how can I maximize the net proceeds for my client when listing and selling a home? And if you don't have that mindset, then oftentimes you end up in a situation where you take a listing and you're given this product that you have to sell, and you're looking at it like, man, like I'm happy to do my best with this, but what if I had, got engaged in this conversation a little bit earlier in the process, or if they have some patience and are willing to give me some time, like what could we do to ultimately get the absolute most value for this particular seller? And so that's really what I want to talk to you guys about is, you know, putting a sign in the yard, listing it on the MLS and doing in today's age, it's all about doing social media, right, to market. But one of the reasons that all those house flipping shows were really popular is because you got to see the transformation, and that is really engaging. So, A, this process will be really great for your clients in terms of the value that you provide for them. But B, if you are creating social media, if you are creating content, then you are going to have some really great content for yourself too, because you're going to kind of share the journey as you go along doing this for your clients. And this is not just theory. I'm literally still doing it to this day, and I'll talk about one of the flips I'm wrapping up in Woodstock, in hopes to give you guys some more kind of insights. But that's really the foundation of where this whole thought process came from. So, um, in my uh, time as an agent and as an investor, let me start by saying I've never, ever lost money on a deal. Like, I know that that's rare. Like, sometimes I didn't make as much money as I thought. Things don't always go according to plan, but I've never come out a loser. And thank the Lord, knock on wood, I hope I never do. Because it is a methodical system. It's a process. It's not just hoping that things will work out. It really is uh, a system that you can follow, and I'm going to lay that out step by step so that you can. So the difference between an a typical listing and an investor-based approach can literally be tens of thousands of difference in profit for your sellers. So most agents price a home based on comps. That's what you're taught to do. But most agents don't look at potential value. And so most agents think that pretty pictures are what gets it done, or a compelling video, or maybe the price. But what I'm here to tell you is that there's really data that you can use to analyze opportunities to add value to do a better job for your clients. And understanding the psychology of an investor as well as that of a seller is the key to unlocking that extra value. So um, one can just be, who's your target market? Most people look at comps and they think of a retail buyer, someone that's going to move into it, and they'll even look at a home and they'll say, hey, you know what, if you can declutter and if you can clean it up and if you can maybe slap some paint on the wall, that's the extent of the thought process. But it doesn't always, max proceeds doesn't always mean that you go through the value add process. I want you to look at it a couple of different ways, not just through who a retail buyer might be, but also who a wholesale or an investor buyer might be. I'll give you a good example. I got referred to a client out of California whose brother died and his home was in Decatur, and she didn't know anything about the market, didn't know anybody here. And this particular property, I looked at it as if what I would pay for it, what it would cost me to renovate it, and what I could sell it for, and what those margins would be. And I came up with around $110,000. Now, it was going to cost me another $80,000 to renovate it. I'd be in it for 190 plus some other expenses, call it 200,000. Well, I only thought I could sell it for maybe 275 if I was lucky. And it was going to take me a good 6 months to extract that value. And I wasn't really sure if 275 was a good number. And there might have been some profit, but if I found any kind of extra things in there, I thought I might ultimately either waste my time and potentially lose money. And so I started marketing it to a bunch of wholesalers and investors. And I ultimately got an offer for $137,500. Now, I was fully transparent with my client. I said, hey, listen, I can list it and we may or may not get this good of an offer. They were offering cash. There was very limited contingencies and due diligence. It was a really solid deal, short closing time frame. And ultimately, we decided to take that offer because I didn't think going through the process of paying commissions for me and another realtor and the time that they were going to have to hold it and the potential issues that would be uncovered in a due diligence situation with an extensive inspection, I didn't think that was in her best interest. So we went ahead and we took the seller accepted that offer. I honestly think if we went on market, we may not even have got that price. And so when I talk about this conversation and thinking about it or looking at it from an investor's perspective, that doesn't always mean value add. That means knowing when to hold and when to fold, knowing what the best outcome is for your seller. But you can only understand that if you understand the whole process. So an investor, again, doesn't buy on emotion, they buy on numbers. And so the ARV, these are some basic metrics that I want y'all to understand. The ARV, if you ever hear someone talk about that, especially an investor, is after repaired value. That means not what the home would sell for based on comps in its current condition. That means what the home will sell for based on comps after the work is done. So if you're looking at a 1,200 square foot, 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom that's old and dated, and you're going to, let's say, add 500 square feet and a master suite with another bathroom, and it's going to be a 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and everything's going to be renovated. Well, you don't run comps on what it is, you run comps on what it will be. And that number will give you your ARV. So that's always a good thing to do. Anytime you look at a home, any age, any condition, any configuration, you want to look around and try to find, many of you have heard the real estate term highest and best use. Like, what could it be? And that's the ARV. The next one is obviously the renovation cost. That's the estimate. And one of the ways that you can do that, if you don't have a lot of good trusted contractors, is you can get a bid or a quote from, say, 2 or 3 different general contractors with a detailed scope of work. A scope of work is just the work to be done. And so you give them that scope of work, or you work with them to develop what it's going to look like to redo the flooring or paint it or redo the kitchens or bathrooms or whatever you're going to be. And that scope of work, that estimate, you're going to use in your calculations. And then ROI, many of you know what that is. That's simply return on investment. So if they take the time to do this, if they take the money to do this, then there needs to be return on that. You're not trying to put in $1 in order to get 50 cents back. If you put in $1, you want to get $2 or $3 back from that time and money, or else it's just not worth doing it. So that's your ROI. If you're working with an investor, things like cap rate and cash flow are going to be important, but we're just talking about everyday buyers and sellers. These aren't necessarily investors, but taking this mindset into it can help you in working with all of your listing clients, all your potential clients. And so you're always comparing this cost of improvements with the value that you're creating. I always say from the investor's mindset, like there may be 10 things that you want to do, but only 5 things that you can afford to do. And you want to focus on those things that are going to add the most value, that are going to get the best return. Fun fact, a new front door is probably one of the most value added things you can do. It sounds basic, but it has such a big return on curb appeal. I actually posted, I don't know if it was the same post you were talking about on my Instagram, a reel the other day that talked about the 5 kind of most important value added things that you can do to add value to get a better sales price and what those are. And so a front door that looks really good and is functional and it isn't all beat up and janky, like that's the first impression when someone walks in. You want that to be a good one. So you're always balancing the cost of improvements with the value created. By the way, just simply having this conversation with you on your listing appointments is going to help you convert more listings as an agent, because you're demonstrating to the seller that you're not just in it for a commission. You're going to do more than the average agent. You're not just going to put a sign in the yard. You're not just going to throw it on the MLS and get professional pictures, which you should do all of that. But you're actually going to be a consultant that brings information and data to help them make the best decisions. Now, I know what you're thinking. Like some people just want fast and easy, and that's true. But what most people want is to feel like they have been empowered with good information to make the best decision for themselves. And so when you're providing them an estimate of what you call an as is value, and maybe it's an as is cash buyer that can close quickly, that's discounted, or an as is if we just list it by cleaning it up and decluttering and making it nice. And by the way, um, before I get distracted, I can't tell you how many people miss an opportunity when they have a home like the one that I just talked about. If it's covered in furniture and clutter, like the person, you know, died and the estate, the owner, the executor, the sister was in California, there's no one here locally. They were lucky that it was me selling that house and that I have the network that I have of investors who can see through the clutter. If I was going to have to list that home on the MLS for everyone else to look at it, 5 grand for a couple of dumpsters, people to clean the house out, literally just empty it, empty the storage sheds, get it professionally cleaned, like just at a minimum, removing all that stuff, that would add ten to $20,000 in value, because most people can't see past the clutter, and you have to get that across to your clients. It's the same thing when you're just telling your clients, hey, I want you to take all the pictures of your family off the wall, because they want to see themselves in your home, not you. Hey, I love that you love all this stuff that you have displayed, but let's just pack all this up and put it in a storage unit so that it looks clean and simple. Like those things you can take to the next level by doing things that add value, but clean and clutter free is like value add step number one. And there's a real return on that investment. So we talked about it. What's the current market value? Well, as is. You're being a consultant. Here's the cash price, close quickly. Here's the as is price if we list it on the market. Then here is the cost of these improvements that I would recommend. And this is part of your job, is to look at the comps based on as is, the comps based on if you did the flooring and paint, the comps based on if you did a kitchen renovation or if you did a bathroom renovation, or the comps on just cleaning up the landscaping and doing the exterior renovation, or what are all these deferred maintenance? There's some wood rot on the soffit or the fascia, or the gutter is damaged, or the roof is on its last leg. Like all of these things, you want to give them these different options. And then you want to run a net proceeds scenario. Hey, if you do it like this, based on your mortgage balance payoff and the holding costs, like here's how long it's going to take in time. And here's your net proceeds as is. Here's your net proceeds with these simple renovations. And here's your net proceeds if we do it all. And so it's really about empowering that seller to make the best decision for them. They might say, I don't want to do it all, but they also might think that all of that requires them, their time, their energy, their effort. I don't know a painter. I don't know a flooring company. I don't want to live through a renovation. And those are all conversations you have to say. One of the things that I've done, because I am an investor, is I do have an extensive network of all of those things. Multiple painters, plumbers, electricians, flooring companies, people that I know, I like, I trust, that I know will do a great job. They'll do it on time, on budget. Are they humans and do things happen that are unforeseen challenges? Yes. But if you're going to go down this road, like you have to do the heavy lifting. Part of the value, I'm going to get on a soapbox real quick. The reason that there was a lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors, the reason that clients and lawyers are attacking realtors about their commissions and realtors are having to justify their value is because most realtors don't provide any value. If you're a homeowner and you clean your home, stick a sign in the yard, pay for a for sale by owner ad on Zillow or Realtor.com, or use one of those discount brokers that for $1,000 will put your home in the MLS and everyone will see it. And then all you have to do is manage the showings like that. Is that worth 3%? I don't know that it is. Or 2.5? Is it 2%? Is it 1.5? Like how low can you go just to kind of do something that a homeowner could do themselves if they took a little time and energy to do it, versus someone who has this consultative approach that has all of these exit strategy options, that has all of these value added options, that gives them a multiple business plans that they can choose from that best fit them, their life and their lifestyle. And then on the other side of it, they have all the connections to the proper vendors who can help execute this plan in a painless manner. So if you're that kind of a realtor, well, then even if it's not investors you're working with, even if you're not an investor, if you're bringing this type of an experience to a seller, you don't have to justify your value. You're you're adding every bit of value and more. As a matter of fact, oftentimes I charge way more for this process because at the other side of it, I'm going to net them tens of thousands of dollars more than had they not gone through the process. And so doing this separates you from the herd. It separates you from all the other realtors out there who don't have a compelling reason as to why the seller would work with them. And so current market value, ARV, cost of improvements, the net proceeds, the different scenarios so that they can see which one works for them. Are they going to leave it? Are they going to renovate it? Who's going to buy it? Is this a first-time home buyer? Is it a luxury buyer? Is it an investor buyer? Who are the different buyers who might be interested in it? And how are you ultimately going to get your product, their property in front of those people? Create a competitive situation where you have multiple offers, when you can, potentially drive the price up. And so I was with my wife. She flips vintage furniture. We were picking up free furniture from a home in downtown Woodstock about 2 months ago. And we get there, there's all this stuff out in the yard. There's these older people who are just working tirelessly to try to clean the house out, to try to get people. They weren't even selling stuff, they were giving it away. Why would people do that? Well, I'll tell you, because I immediately start asking questions. Come to find out, the owner had been there for 40 something years. She was older, had early stage dementia, had moved to Alabama. These are her cousins. They are here cleaning out her house, not because they needed money for any of the stuff, because they weren't even trying to add value. They just didn't want their family member to be embarrassed by having people come through the house to potentially buy it with all of this stuff. People just tend, as they get older, to hold on to things. I don't know if y'all know that or know any seniors who tend to just be collecting everything on the planet. They lived through a time, maybe through the Great Depression, or they were raised by people in the Great Depression and they had to go without if they didn't have things. So they start to hoard things as they get older, and they just didn't want people to see this. So they're giving away all this stuff. I said, "What are you doing with the house?" They were cleaning it out to list it and sell it. They wanted $250,000 for the home. Now, I honestly think if they had listed it, they would probably get it. And I told them that. I said, "I'm a realtor. I don't want the listing. If you list this for around 250, you'll probably get it." Or they were a couple of days into this. It was hot. 2 months ago, we were in August. It was hot. They were tired. I said, or you can just leave and you can leave everything just like it is. And I'll give you, I asked him, I said, "Have you got any other offers?" And they were like 165, 185. I said, "I'll give you $200,000 and y'all can just leave the rest to me and I can close in a week or two." And I called up Doug. They, did the title work. A week to 10 days later, we closed. I paid cash. So that was very attractive to them that they were relieved of this problem. Now, on that $200,000 house, I knew because it was in downtown Woodstock. And y'all, I ran comps for uh anything, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, single family home, 6/10 of an acre, within less than a mile of downtown Woodstock. There was not one home, period, less than 500 grand. The only thing that was in that price point are townhomes. Well, not everybody wants to be in a townhome. The older neighborhood, I'm looking around, renovated home, renovated home, renovated home. Like I'd say 50% of the street was either renovated or in the process. Now, none of them were like fully renovated. It was like some exterior work, maybe some flooring or paint, maybe a kitchen or bathroom, but nothing that was like a comprehensive renovation. The closest thing to it, someone 3 doors down had paid 325,000, and then the owner fully renovated it. I thought I could get it done for about 100 grand. I just finished yesterday. Ultimately, it ended up costing me more like 120,000. When I say it looked like the backyard was going to eat the house itself, it was a jungle. If I had done nothing but this one thing, I probably could have gotten 275 or more. For $5,000, I had the entire backyard cleared, mulched, all the trees hanging over, limbed, everything. So you could see the entire 6/10 of an acre and it looked functional. Y'all, I could have paid 200, done $5,000 and then listed it, and the backyard alone would have made a world of difference. Would have added at least 10, $20,000 in value for that one thing. But I knew that there was more money to be made, more value to add, and more importantly, one of the things that isn't relevant to this conversation, but it just is my philosophy as an investor, is that when I want the new buyer, think about yourself. If when you were a first-time home buyer or anytime you bought a home, do you want to buy a home and then instantly it's like, oh, but I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do this and this unexpected thing pops up. I want someone to have an amazing home that they live in love, create memories, and don't have all this stress. And so I had a hunch because there was nothing under $500,000 in the area that I could drastically drive up the value. So what I did was everything. It took me about 7 weeks. I did full, like I told you, the whole yard was reclaimed. And then I did some curb appeal kind of landscaping, some mulch and a couple of bushes. I built the front stoop was one of those stairs that was made out of brick and cement and it was cracked and falling apart. I just built a wooden one around it that is nice and new so that you walk up the steps into the home. I replaced all the exterior doors, new garage door, automatic garage door opener, new front door, new side door, new back door slider. I rebuilt the deck on the back, all the soffit, all the fascia, all the gutters, added wood shutters, and now the garage door, the shutters, the front door, and the front stoop are all walnut colored. Full exterior, new siding, new windows, full exterior paint. Now this ugly brick and blue, y'all, it was blue. Brick home with some siding is all brand new and all white with walnut. It's beautiful. The curb appeal is amazing. Flooring, paint, smooth ceilings, recessed lighting, new light fixtures, fans, switch plates, vents, all new kitchen, two new bathrooms. And then it's a split level and the basement level, which was all just dry storage. I cut it in half. One side is dry storage, and the other side leading from the garage into the house is now epoxied floor, washer dryer, put all the mechanicals into a closet, the water heater and furnace and all that so that you can't see that. Did a folding table for the laundry and a feature wall, just shiplap and iron ore with a little bench built in, repurposed the cabinet from the kitchen down there. So now walking from the garage into the house feels like you're walking through a mud room and a laundry room. So it's awesome. It feels like it's part of the house. The garage was not finished. So I just did, sheetrock and paint to go with the garage door opener in the garage. Everything about this home is new. I'm gonna list it 450. I'm all in it for 320. I think I probably will get more because you can literally just walk the Pure and have margaritas. You can go over to the amphitheater and take in a concert. You can go to the park with your kids. You can do all this at six tenths of an acre in a single family home right there in downtown Woodstock. And so that seller could have easily done all those things themselves. I say easily with my assistance. I offered to help them do all that. I even offered to partner with them. I said, "Hey, listen, if you'll just give me the house for $200,000, I'll fund all this other stuff and then we can split the proceeds." I would have done that because they saved me from having to deploy this capital. They didn't want to do that. But my point is, I said, "Here's my cash offer. Here's what I think you can list it for as is. Here's what I think it'll cost to do all these things. And here's what I think we can sell it for. And we can partner on that. What do you want to do?" And I let them pick. And I was fine with all the options. And so that's just the way that I approach working with sellers is I want to empower them with good information to make the best decision that they can for themselves to maximize their net proceeds. And then I want to be the conduit to making that experience as smooth and as humanly possible, whether it's as is or through a renovation. So my recommendation for you is that you start in maybe you're not, not like me, you don't have that now where you haven't flipped all those homes. Start down the road of analyzing each opportunity from different perspectives. Start building your network so that you have these trusted vendors that can help your clients and start being a resource and a consultant, not just an agent who sticks a sign in the yard, takes some pictures and puts it in MLS. And by the way, yes, I've shared this whole process on my socials, and everyone that I know, everyone that I see, they're reaching out to me, they're talking about it. I run into them and they're like, "Hey, Denny, how's that house going in Woodstock? It looks beautiful. I love what you've done with it." And that's just creating more conversations. So with that, Doug, happy to answer any questions. hope some people got some nuggets that they can take away and that have added some value in some way.
Denny, one of the first questions that we got is, excuse me, key to your success is having good vendors. Do you have any vendor recommendations? If you can provide a list of vendors, if easier, if you just email it to me, I'll add it to the presentation when we record it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. And for me, it really so I could give you a vendor, but the reality is, um, each and every property is unique, and I would say more than anything, what you need to build is a variety of them in a variety of places that solve a variety of problems. It's almost like a toolbox, and you got to know the right one for the job. Some painters cover specific areas, not all of them. Some contractors will go some places, not everywhere. So, um, if you're watching this and you're in Covington, I don't do a ton of business in Covington, so my list is probably not going to be really helpful for you. But that shouldn't stop you from still pursuing this and proactively seeking out those relationships in your local market. But absolutely, Doug, I'd be happy to send you a list of like my go-to people in the areas that I focus on so that people can use them because they are really great and awesome.
I appreciate that. We'll add suggested vendors that you provide as a card in the presentation when we complete it and post it. And I know that'll be a good resource to people going back to review the materials. One of the questions I have is, how do you find good properties? I it sounded like you almost sort of fell into this one, not like you were looking for it.
Um, I'm going to butcher the saying, but many of you have probably felt like some successful person was super lucky and or something that someone does is kind of easy. And I always say that if you find someone that makes something look easy, that's just because they're really good. They work really hard at making it look easy. You can create your own luck. Most people don't recognize an opportunity when they see it because they're not looking for it. It is because of this approach that I have now developed a reputation for doing this. Like that California referral, that came to me because a friend of a friend, their brother died, property was in Atlanta, and actually a guy out of Virginia knew this person in California. I know the guy in Virginia, and he said Denny in Atlanta is the person to solve that problem for you. So that's how that Decatur property came to me. Last year, um, a broker in Wisconsin called the broker in Atlanta because the broker represented the seller in Wisconsin. The buyer of that property had a property in Atlanta that needed to sell in Canton. The buyer's agent, that buyer of that listing in Wisconsin, their sale fell through in Georgia. And so now they had this super limited time where they weren't going to be able to close. The listing agent was going to lose the sale. The buyer was going to lose the opportunity to buy the house. The buyer was going to lose their earnest money. And the buyer had this house in Atlanta that needed to get gone and it needed to get gone quick. That broker in Wisconsin called the broker in Georgia. The broker in Georgia said, you need to call Denny. He solves problems like this. So while it may look like luck, my wife flipping furniture, this person in Virginia, it it is a mindset. It is learning how to solve these problems effectively and then developing a reputation for being the person that does that. And then, yes, your phone will ring. The other is I have developed a network of trusted wholesalers, and I hate would be a strong word, but I despise most wholesalers because they have no idea what they're doing and they're throwing shit at you. And then you have to underwrite 1,000 deals to find one. That's a waste of my time. So I have wholesalers that are marketing for off-market properties that I have taught what a good deal for me looks like. And you send me deals that work for me, or I delete you and stop looking at your deals. You do your job. If you're going to make a $10,000 assignment fee, then you're going to vet this property before it gets to me. And if your ARV and your renovation estimate and if all of your numbers are terribly wrong every time, I don't have time for you. So learning how to do all the things I was just telling you how to do so that then you can train bird dogs, people to identify opportunities for you, that's another one. But the third way, and this is the most relevant for all of you if you're still here, is the MLS, because most agents suck and they don't look at things like I look at it. And so they post things on the MLS and they've looked at it one dimensionally, and that is how I can list it. They haven't looked at all the different ways that they can add value, the cash price, the as is price, the renovated price, the ARV of what it will be. They haven't done all that work. And so they'll post a listing. And during COVID, anything would sell for any amount of money. That's not happening right now. If it's not priced right, price, condition, location, if all those things aren't in alignment, then it's not going to sell. So I can look at a home. I just bought an investment property in Pittsburgh in 30310. It started at $290,000. It was on market for over a year. I bought it for 205 and got $10,000 in seller concessions and got all the windows that were broken replaced and got the stolen HVAC, a new one installed. So net, I'm in at 185 after renovating it and setting it up on um, platform for rent. I'm all in at like $225,000. And the house was already rented out. It's cash flowing better than anything I've ever bought. And it was just a rotten home on the MLS because I was looking at it through this lens. So if you have a one-dimensional viewpoint, you're only going to find so many opportunities to buy, or you're only going to add so much value on the listing side. If you can look at it at any deal from 5 different directions, you'll find the highest and best use. And you'll identify opportunities where there's value for you to purchase. And by the way, all your money's made on the buy. It's getting a good deal on the way in. You can never add value to a bad purchase. Had someone in Milton call me the other day. They're under contract. These numbers are going to blow your mind. $800,000 house. And they're like, should we renovate it or should we knock it down and build a 6,000 square foot home and try to sell it for $4 million? I looked at it every which way I could look at it. And I just said, you're screwed. Like this is you overpaid by so much for this land that I don't see any way out. So it's just being able to analyze deals from multiple perspectives that will have you, one, give you the insight and opportunity to identify deals when you see them. Two, help your sellers on the listing side. Three, help you buy when you're buying for yourself if you are, or buying for your clients.
Denny, one of the questions from our chat was, do you have a design team that recommends renovations, like changes to the home layout to create more space for rooms or change the flow of the property? Or do they give you different examples of how to change the elevation, shutters, siding selection, paint colors? I know that you've mentioned a door replacement is nearly always a cost positive change, but how do you go about envisioning what changes would give you the best ARV?
Um, Time and experience, but no, I would say 9 out of 10 times, uh, designers are not worth the money you pay them. I mean, it would have cost me $10,000 to get someone's opinion for what I did to this house in Woodstock. Um, and it wouldn't have gotten me $10,000 more value than I could do myself. I'd say there's two things. I would use a designer if it was like a luxury high-end multi-million dollar property for sure. But these like, two to $800,000 homes, I feel perfectly comfortable making those decisions myself. Let me rephrase that. Consulting my wife for design decisions.
Fair enough.
Um, because she has a great eye for colors and textures and materials and stuff, and I trust her, and she does a good job, even though she's not an interior designer. Um, One, experience. Two, ChatGPT or a large language model. I literally, and by the way, a large language model like ChatGPT, the output is only as good as the prompt. So I give it all the context. I tell it where it is. I tell it what the price point is. I tell it what my vision for it is. I tell it all the things I'm thinking about doing. And I give the chat GPT or the large language model, I give it all of the context that I need. And then it will give me ideas and options and renderings for the exterior. And I'll go through, and it was cool. Like some of the ideas, I was like, yeah, that's good. It would be better, but this is great. And I'm doing the same thing I told everyone else to do, looking at cost versus value. This is what that improvement would cost me. This is what this one would cost me. This is what that value adds. This is what this value adds. Where's the sweet spot? And so I'll take pictures of interior layouts or photos. I'll upload blueprints. Like I will literally co-create, collaborate with ChatGPT, and it will give me really great ideas. And then those I take to my contractors and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm verifying the information and the assumptions that I made about what it would cost and what the budget would be and what the challenges. And they might come back to me with feedback, and I might make changes based on that. So it's really just a process of me, ChatGPT, my vendors, and trying to figure out where that sweet spot is.
Denny, that's a great lead in that Chat GPT, AI generally, is your friend. If you're not using it, I encourage you, go to chatgpt.com and just start having a conversation with it. You'll find it's a very it's easy to use, it's conversational, and the more data you give it, it will give you ideas. If you go to our website, the resource tab and business builders, we had our digital marketing consultant do a 1 hour business builder on using AI. And in that session, it was specifically to help you write your listings and generate marketing content. And in the space of 1 hour, he created 36 articles, 3 a month to use an agent could use on their blog. He made them specific to location, to things unique about the agent. So the Chat GPT AI generally really is your friend. If you haven't tried it, I encourage you to use it. And if you're using it, I encourage you to push the limits, give it more information and ask for it to make more suggestions and recommendations. And the great thing is, you hear stories about lawyers who have Chat GPT write their briefs and they cite cases that don't exist. You're in the industry. You don't have to take everything it gives you at face value. You have a critical eye to look at it and see, does that make sense? But usually it'll give you some ideas worth considering. And so if you're not using it, I'd encourage you to try, just play around with it and get accustomed to it. And the more data you give it, the more precise answers it will give you.
Yeah,
Just as a
I found
quick
the same thing. It's a collaboration. You can't take what it says to be, doctrine, but you do collaborate with it. And it is wrong sometimes. And if you correct it and call it out, redirect it, give it better context, you'll get better answers. And over time, it does get better and better and better. At this point, ChatGPT knows me so well. If I ask it a question, it takes into consideration my professional experience, my skills, my strengths, my weaknesses, my relationship with my wife, my love for the Lord, my faith, my kids, my parents. It literally knows so much about me. Like it is starting to learn how to give feedback based on my preference. And so, yeah, I collaborate on design and decisions for my renovations and for my clients.
One of the other questions that came up is are you determining AVR? Do you use the same approach an appraiser would use, a different evaluation software or system or process, Or are you just ballpark an ARV based on your own experience with properties that you've worked with over time?
Um, all of that. And what I mean by that is it is part science, part art. You know what I mean? There are, you run comps on, let's say, the as is value. If it's a 1983 in original condition and it's got a ton of deferred maintenance and repairs, like you're looking for something like that, all the other details don't really matter. You know, as long as it's about the same size with the same bedroom, bathroom, like that's good enough. If let's say it's the same home, but it's been well maintained and taken care of, that's almost like for me, the hardest part is if it's old but nice, because someone could buy it and just move into it. It's just dated. The biggest value add are where there's the biggest spread between distressed and renovated. But if it's like, you know, the floors, the walls, the kitchens and bathrooms, deferred maintenance, all that garbage, you're just looking for the same kind of house. If I'm getting into the after repaired value, well, I'm not going like so detailed where I'm like, oh, this house looks exactly like this house. What I'm looking for is, okay, maybe the kitchen, but not the bathrooms have been done. Maybe it's been painted, but the flooring is, you know, old hardwoods. Like I'm looking at a general level of renovation. Is it uh original, well maintained, renovated but not modern, a little bit renovated, some things but not all things, or has everything been done? That's why my home in Woodstock, even though another home in the neighborhood hasn't sold for 450, I believe I'll get more than 450 is because there hasn't been another neighborhood home in the neighborhood sold at that price, but it also not at that level of renovation. Like I'm betting on the fact that all the landscaping, the yard, soffit, fascia, siding, windows, paint, gutters, everything, the outside flooring, paint, ceilings, fixtures, vents, kitchens, bathrooms, everything on the inside. Like it's a new home. It's a brand new home. I just didn't move any walls. So I'm betting someone's going to walk into that and be like, wow, there is nothing like this in this price point, and they'll jump all over it. So yes, you do want to consider the square footage and the features and the bedroom and the bathroom and the location and all of those things. But you also have to like just perfection is the thief of progress. Like you just need to get in there and get after it, and you'll start to develop um my hey, how are you? Thanks. It's my 11 o'clock. We got 4 minutes. Um, my eye is so dialed in at this point, I can walk through a house and tell you almost how much it's going to cost to renovate it. I don't need three contractors to come give me estimates. But 10, 20 years ago, I had a question every 5 seconds. What should I do? How much will this cost? Like there is no shortcut to like, if you're looking for an easy button, don't exist. But
Denny, I realize that we're running out of time, but I'd like to throw one final question before we close at 11. What do you consider to be a good ROI for an investment? What kind of floor threshold, given your time and investment? What are you looking for in an ROI?
yeah, the more it costs and the longer it takes, the more money I should make.
Mhm.
If it's fast and easy and uh simple or I have a high confidence in the outcome, then I'll accept lesser margins. But the reality is the old school 70% rule is still pretty valid, meaning ARV times zero point 0.7 minus renovation costs, and that's how much you pay for it.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I'd like to go ahead and close our Business Builder session today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and being our guest today, and a special word of thanks to my friend Denny Faircloth for being our guest speaker today on the Business Builder Speaker Series. Give us about a week to get the video polished, and we'll add the list of vendors that Denny provides as a card in the PowerPoint presentation, so you'll be able to go back and pull that information. Give us about a week, and we'll have that posted on our website and on our YouTube channel. And you'll be able to go back and review the material we've covered and find the new information that we'll add about the vendors. And so I encourage you to go forth, have a great day. And at Schaefertz and Dean, we look forward to being able to help you with your next real estate closing. Our tagline is that everyone walks away happy. So we look forward to seeing you both at our next business builder and at the closing table. Thanks again and have a great day.